Thanks for coming to Montenegro. It's been special to have some time together. We're connected online, known each other for a while. Very different to finally be in the same place. You've got a very broad background athletically. I know you were doing parkour and then you've explored so many different modalities, but what came before that? What were you like as a child? Were you
Yeah.
playing football and rugby or in the trees? Or?
Yeah, climbing trees. But football was I guess that was my societal path. But I had a best friend who lived opposite me and we used to always be out climbing trees. And then we played football as well.
Yeah.
But I'd always be upside down. My parents said I was upside down more than on my feet. I remember like Michael Jackson coming on and I'd learned to spin on my knee. So just on one kneecap and you could just go, like just self-taught kid, right? It's not that hard, but it was so fun to me. Watching Bomb Funk MCs on MTV, like freestyler video and like being amazed by breakdancing. And I actually managed, there was a breakdance crew in Derby. I started training with it at 13.
Yeah, cool.
And then, but even, I always remember like handstands, I could walk on my hands at 10. Like I used to get the tape measure out and the kitchen door frame was the start point. And every day I'd try and beat my distance at like 10. And eventually I made it to the living room, which was the length of the corridor. And then I made it into the living room and around the coffee table. And I could do that, like I was doing that as a kid. And then by the time, I couldn't hold a handstand until I was 14. So it was like, I didn't care about holding it. I wanted to like do something with it, right? Rather than be on the spot. Who wants to, like, babies learn to walk rather than stand still, right? Like you have that anyway. But that was kind of my background, was handstands, and then that led to breakdancing, and then that led to parkour and things like that.
Were you fearful about any of that? Like, I think inhibition holds most men back from getting into things like breakdancing. Like, anyone looking at it thinks, well, that's pretty cool, but I could never do it. Like,
yeah, I did. I think being a kid, I was just, kind of lucky that I started at a young enough age before that creeps in, right?
Yeah.
But it was just always such a deep natural desire that I had, and I do believe we each have a purpose, and it's more, I think our purposes are more obvious when we're younger, and they can get misdirected as we get older through injuries and chasing different things. But like generally what you do as a very young child is probably closer to what our purposes are, and that was mine. So something in movement. And then I also enjoyed things like maths, and I was doing Rubik's Cube at like 13, 14. So there was a part of my mind that really enjoyed that too.
you get really faster.
26 seconds I got like F2L and like the main algorithms, but the next to get faster was you had to learn like the 50 algorithms
At the bottom.
of each end at the bottom, yeah. So I had like the base. But I go through these chapters of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So you've always kind of had this deep dive mentality. You find something.
Yeah, I'm a deep diver. Yeah. And then also loving the body is like, I do believe spiritually, God, whatever, like that. The one thing you're born with in the physical is your body, right? Not even your clothes, not your house, your body. And so like that's an opportunity and a tool to explore for play and joy and things. So it's like breakdancing is that. You don't need anything but yourself, the floor, music's great, right? Parkour, yourself, the environment. You don't need wheels, you don't need the bike, you don't need any equipment. So there's just something in that. It's like
Were you
simplistic.
conscious of it? Like, did you feel that in your heart as a young man, or was it just getting out and doing the thing and now you reflect back on it in that way?
There was like a sparkle of it, but I never fully assessed that. But I think in my late teens, I was like, yeah, there's something in like not needing it, just my body. Like, and it's hard. I always felt like cycling just is not as fun as running downhill. Like, because I don't know, you could drive an F1 car, but I'd rather run as fast like Usain Bolt or run like Kylian Jornet down a mountain than drive an F1 car, because it's like what's greater than your own speed, right? Your own body, like. But the challenge is being healthy and fit enough to do that.
Was it a rebellious thing as well? There's a bit of a grunge culture to breakdancing and parkour in a way that, were you with the spray can as well, or?
I was never like vandalist. I would never litter or anything like it. Wasn't that, but the rebel, yes. I've got a huge, bless you, rocker. I've got a huge rebel in me. That's like.
Was that part of it? Were you breaking away from something with that?
No, I don't think it was. Although, like, if security would talk down to me, I would probably give them shit back. When they're nice to you, you're polite and you leave. But probably more like chasing attention, like from men and females. I think that was probably more a factor than the rebel.
Showing off, flex.
Yeah, although I like I hate being seen as a show off. Like I won't just be at the gym doing backflips so everyone can see.
Yeah. No,
But
I don't see that in you.
No,
here.
but that's because maybe inside I want to be doing that, and I know how to hide it, because on a deep level, like I'm putting it on Instagram.
Yeah.
I want my schoolmates to know that this is what I do outside of school. Like, so yeah, it's a lot in there, but yeah.
So parkour allowed you to express yourself. How analytical were you about what you were doing? Was that already transitioning into what you're doing now, or was it just like nail the trick?
Not even, yeah. Maybe some element of nail the trick, but it was just go out each day without even a plan. Like go to a spot, like, and you just come up with the challenge on the day, like, or you lie in bed at night and you picture like, oh, this spot, I wonder if I can do that. I didn't even think about that jump. I wonder, like, next time I go there, I'm going to see how far that looks. Maybe I can build up to it, or there's some equivalent safer jump I can do. But it's very much like in the moment, you're in an environment, what can I come up with as a challenge? Can I one-legged stride that to that? Can I 2 foot? Can I catch that and then push back to that? Or like, the absolute joy of parkour is coming up with a challenge in an environment that's at your threshold of safety and danger. Obviously, you want it to be risky but still safe, and that's where the most joy is. But like coming up with the progressions to that, which is obviously we apply it in the gym, progressions, regressions, right? It's coming up with that to the challenge I want to achieve. So there's this 15-foot roof gap, but I've also got, and there's another area in Derby, I can do the same size gap, but it's only on flower beds. Oh, well, I've done that, so then I know physically I'm capable, it's just here now. So it's a whole 3D game of like fitness, biomechanics, the body with fear, which is lost in the gym. You put a pull-up bar over a 50-foot drop, you're going to change what athlete can do, what pull-ups there. And, you know, maybe it's 20 foot. Is 20 foot safer? 10 foot? When does the fear creep in, and is it a spectrum and stuff? So parkour just gave me the access to these questions, and it made my approach to training, like anyone's approach to training, just more of a spectrum. There's more, I don't know, like tentacles to training, and it feels more wholesome, you know.
Should it be brought more into the gym environment, the parkour? I think there's like, there's touches of it in the athletic world, of like people experimenting with different types of jumping in the gym. I think there's a bit of a shift towards more plyometric work in the mainstream fitness or the athletic fitness scene. Yeah. Like, could it be something that becomes more incorporated in the way that CrossFit kind of changed the way commercial gyms look?
It will get there. Yeah, and it totally should. Yeah. The hardest part of it is having a functional body for it, or facing the level that most people would be at when they begin.
So how do you get that?
That's the ego, right? Well, you know, it's like you accept that I have to jump 5 foot and be progressive with it and do that, but I don't know, superset it with
something that's hard,
deadlifts or something that you're used to, or it's like. But I honestly think bringing more parkour elements into the gym would make so many people have a much more fulfilling gym session, because it's not always like, you can't always lift more weight or like run a faster 5K, but with parkour you can always make the jump slightly different, so that you can feel fulfilled every time without having to actually be better on paper, but you've just done something new, and it's a different way of finding fulfillment. Yeah.
I've done that in some ways with my own stuff, more emphasis on skills, you know, the juggling and the foot juggling, and more emphasis on mobility, because it was kind of pushing me towards steroids, because I like bodybuilding and I like being strong, and it's just like, oh, these guys are so big and they're so strong, it makes you, lean towards anabolics, and I never really wanted to go that path, and I'm so glad that I didn't.
It's like the road of bodybuilding leads to that.
It's if you're obsessed with that and you don't have multi-dimensions, where I think if you have these other dimensions, then you don't really want to get too heavy, like even if you look great. Juju Mufu is maybe the exception to it, where he's tricking and he's massive, but it's not like you have to go that way to feel fulfilled. I think if you have that entry-level parkour, it changes the way you look at the physical environment as well. Even when we're down at the river here, like seeing you guys do that trick across the bridge, going under, like bouldering, I was like, I thought there was no way. I honestly thought, like Jonathan, like, oh, there's no way he's going to do that. And it's like, oh, he did it. he's pretty wiry. You know, he can do one-arm chin-ups. Then I
Yeah.
saw you doing it. I'm like, there's no way. Like he's gonna just. Like,
Yeah,
I was really scared for you both.
Yeah,
honestly.
Yeah.
And then you both did it.
You held it down.
Like,
You didn't
wow.
react to it. You just let us do it.
Well, because they're climbing across this bridge, and
Yeah.
the water's about this deep underneath. There's all sorts of stones,
Yeah.
and it wasn't going to be a nice fall if like
No, if
I
the
wouldn't have been
fall
able
would
to
have been
handle the
nice.
fall.
No, if I
No.
was going to fall, I would have been able to control it. But it was basically a tabletop challenge where, say, there's a table and you climb around and up the other side, but on a bridge over the river, with a bit of a drop. But yeah, those kind of challenges. That's what like climbing is another like. You can put labels on climbing parkour and things, but it's just a crossover of knowing your body, right, and knowing an environment and what you're capable of in that environment. But
it's almost like rewilding what you do in the gym, like building potential and then going.
Yeah,
and
the gym should be that, right?
Putting that into the world, if you've got a challenge while you're building something or while you're playing with your children or when you're at the shops, like your the way you look at the world must be significantly different to the average person who's even fit as well. Maybe you can do a triathlon, but the experience of the physical world is significantly different. So you're talking about just start with 5-foot jumps or 4-foot jumps or 3-foot jumps.
Yeah.
Like everyone can start. If you can walk, you can start, I guess. Do you have that laid out? Like, is that something that's part of your school of biomechanics?
Yeah, I just last year I called it springs and swings.
Yeah.
And so that was my two favorite aspects of parkour is jumping and swinging, right? And so I called it springs and swings because when we jump, it's kind of the spring mechanics of the ligaments, the muscle, the fascia, the tissue is springing us forward. And then that's when we're above, our center of mass is above the obstacle, we're springing. When we're below the center of mass is below the obstacle, we're swinging. So the physics change because then we're now using, there's still some pendulum in all of it, but it's less about the spring. There's still a bit of recoil, but yeah, it's more the swinging mechanics. So it changes how it works. And in that is like, you've got standing jump, 2-footed, right? Standing 2-footed jump, you've got a run up, jump off one leg, and you do train that off both legs. Then you've got plyometric 2-footed jump, so you jump 2 foot, you reset your arms whilst you're in the air so that as soon as you land, you come through. And then you've got strides, which is you run and you jump one leg, land on the other leg like almost like triple jump, but
you call it bounding usually.
Bounding, yeah, it came up in
sprinting world.
Yes, it is exactly bounding with a set landing. Some people do it on rails, which is insane at a certain distance, but generally you can do it. We use plates in what I teach, and then you build to, or you have 2 curbs of a road, and maybe you can do 1 plyometric in the middle, maybe you can do 1 bound in the middle, maybe it's bigger, you have to use 2 bounds, and you try and take it down so that you can do it to 1. Or so easy to set up and so much more rewarding. And then you land with precision. Like touch is everything. And in the gym you don't really train touch. With parkour, like this, it's the ninja, right?
That's what looks mental. Is like,
and you're confident in the touch. You have to be confident. Yeah. I watched the old Parkour Generations video recently, and they just said there's 2 things to parkour: the physical conditioning and the touch. So you're physically strong, ready, capable of jumping, and then you have the softness to absorb, to land, to feel, to know how much to throw in, so that you can land and be in control all the time. So I'm like, I love the simplicity of that. You prepare, and you can use a gym to prepare. You can train outside, but then people don't have the touch. And that's what the difference when me and Jonathan can climb. We know at every moment I can reverse out from here. It's not suddenly, people often picture
that's why you didn't have fear, because you could have come back.
At any moment, I could come back. And the first checkpoint, I knew that like, if I had to drop, I'm pretty confident it would have been fine. Obviously if I'm hanging upside down and like slipped, no, but I didn't think every step of the way, okay, boom. I could always reverse out of that and go back, right? Like, but it's just, it becomes a knowing. But yeah.
Scary when you don't know.
Definitely, I get that. I'm grateful I did it from a teenager, but I think there's so much value for, kindergarten, teen, maybe not kindergarten, but like early before teens, and then adults, like getting them to move this, just to balance on a railing that's a foot off the ground, to be able to hang from a wall and get on top of it. You have to use your elbow, maybe use support in the beginning, but like simple skills, but like wonderful, like to experience doing them smoothly.
What were the injuries that drove you deeper into understanding the body?
Into biomechanics and things? Yeah. I got into running, like I kind of...
So it wasn't parkour really that broke you as much as...
No, interesting. I mean, it might have been that I kind of checked out of parkour. I did parkour from about 16 to about 26, 27.
Yeah.
And I'd been successful competitively, been known by all the parkour athletes around the world, was running, my YouTube channel was pretty good with parkour. And, you know, you get bored climbing the same mountain all the time. Like I was kind of over it, got into other things, and I read Born to Run and got into running.
Born to Run's a really cool.
Yeah.
It's a McDougall.
Chris McDougall, yeah.
Super inspiring.
Tara Humara, very inspiring.
I got those sandals that I've got are pretty much like I think he inspired that whole movement of.
He did.
It's really cool how a book can.
It created a movement, that book did. But so I did an obstacle race. I remember I did this 800-meter obstacle race, and I should have won it. I actually fucked up on the monkey bars, but and that was my first obstacle race. And I thought if I could do the running part, because I was gassed, but because it was short enough, I was able to do well. If I can, there's all the Spartan races. I'm like, they look kind of fun. If I can run, and then I read that book, and I did 5K park runs. I was going out on Strava, trying to beat my mile time every single day, like boom, boom, boom. Got into running, had a good stint of running for about 5 years. Got into trail running, mountain running, ultra running. You know, Killian Jornet went to one of his races and vertical Ks and did it all. But ultimately, like my ankle started to really, my right ankle specifically, give me problems, and that was like. Made me kind of desperate to solve it, because I want to run more, I want to run faster, but there's something biomechanically stopping me. You know, my axle's bent, and if you run a car with a bent axle for long enough, eventually something's going to happen. You can straighten it and go, it's going to go longer. That was my thinking. Something to that effect, and then that led me to things like functional patterns. Was my first kind of in on the fringe. I was doing yoga and the more traditional routes of like, oh, I'm injured because I'm not flexible enough. If I just get more flexible, I won't be injured. Yeah. Which is that's like the entry level way of thinking into it. And of course, when you get into it, it's much deeper than just flexibility. It can definitely help. But yeah, and yoga might not be the best way of getting flexible, but that was my like noob, as a lot of people do. You get injured, you think yoga and things, right? So
if you wanted to run super long distances or do the Spartan races now, what would you do differently, or do you think what is it that you've learnt between now and then that would allow you to do that? Do you think it would actually let you do it now, or is it just that stuff is really tough?
Yeah, no, I mean it is tough. I'm less attached to like
wanting to win a race.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of my desire was a bit unhealthy, and the psychosocial, or whatever they call it, what's that? Biosocial.
Because you wanted to win? Because you wanted approval? Like,
wanted approval, yeah, like, and even my own approval, like, the feeling of like, whatever it is, and we can go in real quickly, but I mean, it's worth saying, like, my father I felt the most warmth from my father when I was successful. I played football, missed that bit, but I played a lot of football. I did say that was my main thing. Yeah. Aside from everything else, and he always said he loved football but was never good at it. I was actually okay at it, so he was like got to do it vicariously through me. So therefore, I get approval from my father when I'm successful at sport, when I score goals, when I get man of the match, whatever it is. And then, actually, I'm even better. I'm at a world-class level with parkour. He was proud of me, but it's not really love, because it's not really. It's cool to like be good, but what was driving it was the motive to be seen as good, not that it was just like, this is the joy and I happen to win stuff, but that doesn't make a difference to me. It did. It meant something to me that I can feel was an unhealthy level. So, so a lot of my drive became unhealthy, and then it carried on into running, and it carried on into, like, I did CrossFit and I got into cycling, and I just noticed I was just moving laterally from sport to sport, wanting to be really good at it and not really listening to my body when it's, if it does, you don't listen to the whispers, it starts to scream, right? And so I was forcing it to do races on races. There's only so much recovery you can do when you're just not actually like honouring that it takes years to build up like a real base level. And I think I just didn't want to pay the man and rush to try to get to a high level. And running is the most honest. Well, I'm sure there's more, but maybe parkour. But because it's so simple that it makes it almost the most complicated thing and the most sophisticated. And I'm like, I want to master this first basic of human, like athleticism is to run, like, and if I can master that, then everything stemming from that will become better. That was kind of, but yeah, still maybe the unhealthy drive to prove something, but still, I think the question's fair. Like,
so on the athletic level, What have you learned that, I know you've been down many paths with your education, with your nutrition. What is it on the mechanical side that you value most?
Yeah. So there's one thing that really helped a lot was actually playing with balance, like as a tool to develop. Stability is a funny word within certain circles, but like when you're on a Swiss ball, the way I use it was 3 ways: kneeling, sitting, and then on the belly. And from sitting, we can go further back. But there's this chaos beneath you, right? And when you're balancing, you're not thinking, oh, move my right leg that way, move my left leg. The body's kind of doing it by itself. I'm just setting up the scenario. I'm on the ball. If I use a tiny ball, it's going to be almost impossible. If I use a massive ball, it's too easy. So you find the Goldilocks zone of challenge where I can be there. Maybe I'm there for 10 seconds, I come off, and slowly you build up to a minute, make the challenge a bit harder. But there's this natural recalibrating of the body that happens when we do that, where when you fall off, it's often not because you swung one way. It's when you're falling one way, so you try to rebalance by swinging the other way, and you overshoot the other direction, and that's what takes you off. And when I was doing this, I was noticing how much it was just softening a lot of the air, like kind of my joints and my muscles were learning to move less. Like in the beginning, you're like that, right? Boom, boom, ah. And then later you learn the soft motor control, whatever's happening. As well as that, it's like I consider it like a lateral strengthening. So there's not like a lengthening and a shortening. It's like I'm being challenged, my knee's being challenged this way, and I'm learning to kind of strengthen the joint from a different capacity. And I'm not someone who goes deep into like the physiology of it, but I felt considerably better in it. And that was actually inspired by speaking to Weck, and his journey was like just playing with the Swiss ball. And again, it's just play, just get on the Swiss ball, put on music, a podcast, and just play with it. What different positions can I come up with? How can I challenge myself? That was huge for me, and that's one of the main things I teach. That's the first port of call with the School of Biomechanics. The first module is always just play with a Swiss ball, and I think everyone could benefit from that alone as a physical practice. And then there's other things, with rope flow and other practices that came in from there. But like the main thing that I'm like glad that I discovered that's helped me is that one actually. It's a humble practice, and just balance is so overlooked, and kids naturally are drawn to want to test their balance. Like kids climb on a wall, you hold their hand, you might have a bit of fear that
You see my boy, he's 5 months, he's nearly 5 months old. Just gone 5 months old. He wants to balance all the time. Whenever you give him the opportunity to balance, he's like lights up. It's like it's on his face.
It's hardwired in us, right?
It's balanced on my hand. I'm holding his hands. It's like super clear.
It's cool to see. And then even they get to 6, 7, they balance, and they get to 12 years old and we put them on a football field and see who's the best. And it's like,
or 6.
Or even younger. But it's like, why don't we nurture that part of us that's innate to develop? And because how many adults or old people die or fall over, break their hip, they lose balance. But we don't develop it or maintain it or have even any infrastructure for like what is a good way to. You could do slackline, but that might be a hippie type thing. But so, Weck's got the Bosu, developed from the Swiss ball. You can use it in different ways, but just maintaining or developing that as an athletic component is so overlooked. And then there's the concept of static balance, where you're on a Swiss ball and you're trying to maintain like a homeostasis while chaos is below you, to something like running or on a basketball where you're changing direction, but you have to maintain balance, because if I'm off, I can't change. If I'm falling too far this way, I can't change direction. Or if you're in an MMA match, you're trying to take someone's balance. If they take the balance, you take them down. If they can maintain balance, you can't take them down. We never train it as like a principled aspect of athleticism.
People say it's not specific enough, like that if you create
it's hard
too much,
to define,
too much chaos underneath, that it doesn't work. They're waving your hat at you. We're transporting materials from below in the car park up to where the new pads are going in for cabins and transforming the landscape here.
Live and direct right now. I do get that. It's hard to be specific and translate it, but I think it's a fun It's a fun fundamental that you could use it as a rehab. It may work as a prehab, I think so, maybe not, who knows. But as a non-serious, like maybe it's undefinable, but maybe it's good to do undefinable practices because you come out happy from it and you get an accomplishment of becoming, like, I don't think there's one person that goes through that module in my school that doesn't have great feeling of like success and reward. Like at the beginning, I wouldn't think I'd be able to do, I would never be able to stand on it, and now I can stand on it. I would never think I could do 10 seconds sitting on it, and now I can do 2 minutes or something, and it's like, and there's just some reward in that. And they don't feel drained at the end of it. They don't feel, the nervous system doesn't feel taxed.
No, that's the thing, is like, you can argue against it of, hey, there's no research to support this or blah, blah, but there's very little cost. It's joyful, and you get significantly better at it in a short period of time. So what do you, like, there's very little potential downside, and there's a decent case for upside when you experience it. I played around with it quite a lot in my late teens, early 20s, and it's fun, and it's fun to go from feeling really awkward to being able to do a bit.
And it lasts. That was another thing when I was looking for things in a belief in God's system. There are some things that take maintenance, and there are some things that you can develop that just stay with you. And so things like strength, you can build it, and it takes more effort to build it, and then you can maintain it with maybe a little less effort. My experience of flexibility is it takes some maintenance. Some people may be able to have it and keep it. I don't know your thought on that.
I think strength and flexibility generally take decent amount of depending on the muscle group and such. Like the hips tend to tighten more because we sit so much, and the hamstrings maybe keep it a bit more. But yeah.
Whereas that,
you're gonna have it for life.
It stays with like at least years, that you can do a top up in 5 years, but like you have it there. It's like the saying is like riding a bike, right? That's a balanced activity. So, and you know, it works like that. And so things like rope flow, like I'm going to know that I could walk up a mountain when I'm 80 and still know how to do this because it's a pattern that I've understood and downloaded, and I don't need to maintain it, you know.
So Swiss ball is one of the fundamental things, and gaining more.
What I like to do, it's a sphere. We love spheres. Sorry, I love the tangent, but like humans, we play football with balls, ping pong, tennis. Humans and balls, there's a relationship, and standing on one is quite a unique version of the human and the ball relationship.
You like your fruit as well.
I do like fruit. That's one of the natural watermelon, bro. Well. Yeah, love me a watermelon.
In season. Yeah,
it's good right now.
Share a little bit about David Weck as well, because I know he's had a big impact on you from a methodology perspective, but I also feel that you have a connection with him as well.
Yeah, I love David, man. I first went over in 2019 to San Diego to visit the Weck Method Lab. I was into functional patterns for some months. Long story short, Naudi banned me. I was just discovered David Weck's Instagram like a week before that banning. And I was like, what else is in this space? I'm in this fringe biomechanical online sphere. Weck was wearing 3 pairs of glasses on his head, talking really fast, bounding around on sawdust, saying, look, I can dance like a boxer on sawdust, and I'm always in balance and control. And I was like, I don't know what this guy's on, I don't understand specifically what he's saying, but you know, I sold my shares from my last business, and it was my last bit of money I had was to go to San Diego and do the Weck Method training. Wow. And I met David with that, you know. And I booked 2 weeks, and I spent 3 days doing the course with him and Chris Chamberlain, who's one of the most inspirational humans that I know. And at the end of the 3 days, me and David had connected. I hadn't got he said, you can stay at mine for the rest of your time. And we ended up going to Joshua Tree. He booked accommodation. We drove over to Joshua Tree and just downloaded to me. We just moved and trained and showed me. I tried to basically understand him from what he's trying to share and feel it and experience it in my body, because it was mind blowing to me.
How was it absorbing just?
Yeah, intense, cool. I don't know if I fully understand or digest it. Maybe I'll be able to look back on it in the future, but he's intense. I think a lot of his stuff is right. I don't know that all of it's right, but I think I find it interesting. I think he's got way more. I think if you put David's movement abilities onto like a 20-year-old athlete, you would see an athlete.
Yeah.
But because he's 50, grey hair, skinny arms, we don't see him.
Yeah.
But because I had enough of like, I don't know whether it's parkour, but what we know in ourselves, we see in others.
Yeah.
And I had enough in myself to see something in him that I think most people don't when they see him move, they don't get it.
Yeah.
And I could see that his ability to move with balance and maintain balance was something very unique. And then I felt it when I started moving with the rope. I started to feel it. And so like, because he's like he's on a permanent mushroom trip or something where like he'll go through phases. He's someone who will like do like 1 or 2 months of something super intensely that he's just discovered, and then move on and forget he did it, and like, you know. So I was trying to like get a timeline of him, of things like what's got him to there, because he might be teaching the rope and the pulses, but there's things I missed, and that's when I came across the Swiss ball stuff. Was like that was a big chapter of his. He had a really bad lower back. I remember him saying how weak his feet, actually his foot conditioning stuff really inspired me. I had really bad, my feet are so much better from what I learned from him. So he had the foot stuff, the Swiss ball helped me a lot. And that was after the rope. So like going through his timeline was like, because he's 52, he had a replaced hip from earlier stuff. And I was in Joshua Tree with him sprinting on the hard asphalt. Like I was driving the car and filming him, and he's just like, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm like, this guy moves, man. I can't run like that in you know, barefoot shoes, flat sole shoes, like zero. That was just, there's something in this guy that's like different, and it's cool knowing him. Like
Yeah.
yeah.
So that was 2019.
That was 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did that change the way you look at business? Because I think he's one of the men who's done really well entrepreneurially in the business space. I know you've progressed along that line.
Yeah.
Was he a big influence on that as well, or?
I mean, I wouldn't say he fully influenced in the business. I mean, he gave me my business in a sense. Like he gave me his blessing to start a rope flow business.
At that time, or was it a bit later, or?
Mid 2020. So I went back. Chris Chamberlain said to me, just put 40 hours in on the rope. Like I went back and did 40 hours. Like 2, 3, maybe a month maximum, did 40 hours.
Were you getting feedback from anyone, or?
Just mirror.
Yeah.
Me in the mirror in the gym.
You're making stuff up? Or
Yeah.
doing the things that you'd kind of learned?
Some of the stuff I learned, but just like the rope's such a good tool to make stuff up with, and like I just have enough of a physical awareness from the breakdance and from the parkour that I can, like, you can give me something, I can run with it. Like, and David knew that, could sense that from me anyway.
I love experimenting like that as well, just making up games.
Yeah.
With any kind of implementing kind of sport.
Yeah, and you just swing shit. Humans, like, we like to balance, we like to swing shit, we like to throw shit. Like, you're just swinging a tool like it's a fidget toy, right? Like, just swing it. Like, you know, what's coming? From that, so 2020, I had 3 businesses in my life. My first one was, I was a professional free runner. We did sell free running clothing. I knew the print service that we made the clothing at. My second business was a vegan clothing company. I knew to use the same print service from them. We built it on Shopify. I knew how to use Shopify. Lockdown came. I was passionate about rope flow. When I'm passionate about something, it's the best time for me to try and share it with others. There's another company at the time I was an affiliate for. I did like 1 video and they sold like 30 ropes, like instantly. And I was like, maybe I'll just make my own ropes. I was like, I wonder how David would feel. Spoke to David. Started wear the rope. Had my own spin on it. He'd give his complete blessing with rope flow. Like, he's got his own other businesses, Bosu's, Pro Pulses, other patented tools that he can always make money from indefinitely, and this stuff all helps feed people towards that anyway. So he's happy for us to go out with the ropes and do that. And I, just using Shopify, bought reels of rope, cut the rope, made my own ropes, made course. I'd made 1 course before that, a Mindful Warrior course, which was like a couple years before I'd made and sold on my clothing website as the platform for it. But I got that experience making a course. I made a rope course to go with the rope and sold it through lockdown and started a whole new chapter of my life and my business. Yeah.
What impact has making some money had?
Yeah.
Making money through your own business?
Yes, I mean, making your own business is the greatest personal development tool. I think you used to say the same thing, right? I definitely agree with that. And
it's a great next layer on top of the athletic. Like, people looking at athletic as this is a way to develop yourself. You need to get up early, you need to run, you know, the Goggins stuff, and whichever way you're getting at it, whether it's CrossFit, whether it's Jocko Willink, whether it's BJJ, or whether it's something more artistic, that athletic thing is real. But there's another level of facing yourself when you go into business, of like responsibility to others and putting your voice and your intellect out there. It's not just toughness and discipline or consistency of you doing you. It's you interacting with others and interacting with the market.
Plate spinning, right? You got to spin so many plates. Yeah, knowing how other people perceive things, like having that self-awareness of like how things come across. Trying to. I was going to say earlier, like when you said like Ben Patrick's definitely someone that inspired me in business because of his approach of open source, giving it. I think I was just doing knees over toes. So when I started the business, I was definitely like taking a lot of inspiration from him, and obviously what you helped with him build there as well. But like that open source approach and the ethics and like giving a lot out for free, but then charging for like the systemized approach to it, and that was big on me, big imprint, and just having faith that like in that system of like, I don't need to use manipulative marketing. I really try not to use pain point marketing, because I do look at a lot of business advice online, and I've spoken to people and they're just like telling me to do CTAs more or pain point marketing, and I'm like, just something in my soul doesn't feel right with all of that, right? It's okay to use some testimonials, but I'd rather someone wanting to have a more playful, self-loving approach to training be drawn to that aspect of the rope than going, I've got a spine injury, shoulder injury, I'm desperate to fix it with something physical and whatever, and it certainly can help those things. But yeah, I wanted to find a more ethical approach to my business that doesn't seem draining to my soul, and sure, it might take longer to build up, but the organic nature of what I'm doing and the good customer service, word of mouth is the best. Focus on getting good word of mouth. Like, it takes longer, but this year is the first time I'm really at a place with the business where I'm like comfortable and actually starting to save money and not just surviving, right? So it's a truly like a blessing, and I'm grateful, but then a new set of problems always, like, it doesn't end. Like, now I've got freedom to do my time, and I've got time each day. Now how can I spend it valuably that's nourishing to me and can, like, you look at spiral dynamics, right? What is yellow? That's the win-win-win, right? Like, I've got time to find the win-win-win, but I just want to twiddle my thumbs or like chill for a bit, at the checkpoint. But yeah, the new problem emerges is, okay, I've got this freedom. What do I really want? Because I think before I was motivated by fear of survival, of not getting enough money. But now that fuel's gone, I'm like, what's the fuel? What's pulling? Am I being pushed? No. What am I being pulled towards? And it's like, I feel like I'm in this in-between stage right now. I'm a little bit unsure of how to invest my time, who to spend it with, where to spend it at. So I don't have a clear answer on it, but I just know that, like, I wouldn't give this up for anything. Like, the personal development tool of your own business, everyone should have. Is it Nabil? You know him? Naval?
Yeah.
Everyone should have. In the future, there'll be 8 billion businesses.
Yeah.
Like, something like that,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
that makes...
Yeah. Even if you're not selling anything, the thing like Jordan Peterson talks about as well, of like, if you don't write essays, you don't even know what you think about stuff. And it doesn't have to be a written essay these days. It's literally talking to your phone for 20 minutes about something you feel passionate about and put it on a free Substack. Like, people are trying to fit themselves into these little bubbles of reels and tweets, but what do you really think? And if you're not publishing what you think, you don't even know what you think. I've been writing this book, and writing a book is like, what do you think A to Z? It's not just what do you think about X. It's like, what do you think about, what's your whole big idea about this thing? And I think that's another level of, and it's been really, really challenging for me. I don't know if I'll ever get it published, but it's
writing a book
much.
Is yeah.
I'm writing like the whole book of
my
whole system of like what I aspire towards, and
opus magnum already. Time for that one.
Yeah, but it's so the journey continues of where to next. You've been traveling, you've been meeting people, your ropes course is strong, you got your school of biomechanics. What if you did know what was coming next, like what would be the next things that you want to publish more into and explore more into?
Business-wise or life-wise? Like,
either way, whatever's coming.
Well, what you're doing here, I think, is really inspiring to me, and that's why I'm here. But I sensed it. But just to be here is incredible. But like, I haven't got a physical imprint on the earth, like not in the ego way. I don't own my home. I'm renting. I'd love to buy a house. I'd love to buy land, and make use of that where I can help regenerate the earth and help other people, either share with them what I've learned or offer space for other people to share and build a more loving future together, because I think we're both well aware that there are pretty dark forces at play on the earth, making decisions for the whole of humanity, and they are not at all based in love. They're actually probably intentionally the opposite, but we don't know, but they, pretty dark. And so to just do my best to continue to develop myself whilst having an opportunity, and like we said, business is an opportunity for physical development. Talking with you here, having your own land with other people on it, that's going to be even more opportunity. Trying to build, a community can be an interesting word, but like at least having a space to, whether the community's there permanently or not, start to work on that, like support others with the same dream, because there are more people coming and discovering that they've made the business dreams, but they're like, what next? Or they've made the athletic dreams, and they're like, how can I actually give back with,
Yeah.
So it's like, for me, it's get the land. And I think Ready, Fire, Aim has always helped me in the past. And I think you know that, that's what you're doing here, right? Like, Ready, Fire,
You've heard a bit of the story.
I thought of it today. I was like, do you know that one? Yeah, of course. Ready for it. So it's
just when I came into this place, like, we literally stumbled here because my daughter said, go up there, Daddy. At the end of 3 days after that, I was pretty much like, let's do this together. Let's build out this 3 hectares of land with this man I just met who just offered me a beer. It's the first beer I drank in 5 years because he didn't know me, and that's how it began, And
on a handshake, man.
I didn't have anything on paper.
Handshake deal,
I was investing here for 2 years with nothing on paper. Like, let's see.
Giving this guy money to.
I was scouring the earth for someone who wanted to be on land, who could buy into the vision of there can be a place where people can go where they get better, and getting better is different to different people, but it's the athletic stuff, it's the business stuff, and you're talking about these soul mechanics, and people come here and they leave differently. They go and spend time up in the trees. They go and walk up and like. It's not easy to find someone who can buy into that, and I wanted someone who is on a physical location that wants to be on that location. I'm quite nomadic, and I don't really trust myself to say, like, I want this land and I want to be here, because I did it in Australia and I couldn't stay. So now I found one person who's like, I'm here. This is my family land. I want this place to be beautiful, and he wanted someone who would back him to be able to, to do something with it. And now we've had 70 something guests, and it's still a work in progress. There's a lot to do, and it's been massively challenging, but it was definitely a big, like, Ready, Fire, Aim, like, big leap of faith. Many times I thought maybe this is the silliest thing I've done, and like a lot of time, a lot of energy, significant financial investment, and still it might not turn out to be the best thing I've ever done, but I don't think I can regret it. Like, no matter what happened here, like, this has been amazing. It's been phenomenal. We get to share these experiences at this time. We did one before, like the other podcast, the best podcast I'd done here. There was no roof on the gym. Everything was muddy, and it was still phenomenal. And I remember that time. So like that's what it is. It's these experiences and putting yourself forth. So don't be scared, man. Like, if it's
I think I need to apply it again to that, right? like I've done it for business, and I've not done it to, like, pulling the trigger on getting somewhere. And
everyone's doing it online.
Yeah.
But no one's buying a cabin or buying a hectare or buying an acre and put a shed on it and get started. Like, that might be. And Jonathan's done it, and there's Max who's coming here next month from Austria. He bought himself a hectare of land. It's really beautiful in Austria. He would love you to go and visit.
Yeah, okay.
He's and it's happening. Nico's done it. He's buying another place in France now. It's becoming a thing.
Yeah.
And, it should be a thing.
And I think just for me as a man, like, I don't really think I'm definitely not a man. I'm 36, but I still feel like a boy in many regards, right? And like, I can play this game of online, but like actually like putting physical labor, like, we go to the gym, but like I could be chopping wood and building shit, and like that is a bit more gentle, and it'll still get you strong. It's like more endurance, not like one intense 1 hour, but it's like 8-hour days grafting. I've not really had to do that, that would grow me up. That would help me grow me up a bit, and I have obviously got to mathematical mind to some degree, like, but I'm terrified to try and build something carpentry wise, and yet I should, you know, dimensions and things, some part of me as a human, as a man, would be, and I can tell I would be fulfilled. I think I'd have to face some my fears from my
I
childhood.
still haven't been through that either. The
Yeah.
goat house behind the camera here, they built that while I was away. That's for the goats to be in during winter. Like, putting that together intimidates me. Like, how would you do that? And
yeah, but we should, like, we should,
Yeah.
we've got to, right? But
I've got the opportunity now, but I'm
yeah,
still online and this and that. And
yeah,
but I'm looking forward to it too, and it's going to happen. It's getting closer.
yeah, and we will have to face some. The reason we've not done it in our lives yet, right? There's going to be some reason we've not. There's going to be a block in us that's like. But I remember from my childhood, my dad's good at that stuff.
Yeah.
But whenever I tried to help him, he was impatient, and he'd get angry, and it's like, because he didn't know how to love a child, like. So then that's created this imprint in me that whenever I think I remember I was in Australia and I was staying at someone's house, I randomly like was playing with a ball and I smashed his glass window there, like, because it's single glazed. I'm used to like double glazed. I can do whatever, right? And then he came back and I was like so nervous to tell this guy I was staying at his house, and I told him, and he was like, okay, like there's no reaction in him. And I in that moment I was tense and afraid because I thought it was normal that if someone breaks glass, you speak to them that way. Yeah. And it made me realize that my childhood, like, you know, for whatever reason my dad was like that, but it's like, oh, I've got these imprints in me of like, so even if my dad's not around and I messed up, I would beat myself up, you know? So it's like, I think I'd have to go, when I'm building and I screw up, it's okay to screw up and that self-judgment and stuff that comes from my dad's voice will be there. So I think that we'll have to, you know, work through those, but there's the opportunity once you have the land to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, Andreas, who's here, built furniture here. Some of it stayed together better than others. Yubo as well, my partner in the project, he built a bunch of tables and chairs, and there were bolts and things sticking out and things wobbling, but still a cool feeling of, even if it's only sort of banged together, if you've done it and you're eating at it, it's a different feeling.
Yeah, and I've never had that, So that, I think, as a fulfillment perspective and continuing to develop, you know, I wouldn't say I've conquered the gym, but I've done enough time in the gym. I've done enough of business on, like, it's like, okay, actually, like, do that side of the human of that. That's like the kid that wants to balance, like, as the man you want to build, like, you know, that's the growing up.
Yeah, almost every man resonates with the thing of land and animals and having that more real experience of how to feed your family, and be able to sustain yourself without going to the supermarket every 3 days.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Is it coming from the soul? Where's it coming from?
What?
That
desire?
Yeah. These directions.
I'm not sure that it is. I think it's because I think that it should be, that I want it to, that I do it. How do I put this? I think it at a deep level, it's in all of us, yes. So it is coming from the soul. So when I see someone else do it, there's a reason it resonates, is because it's in me. But there's a reason I haven't done it yet. Because if it was a true, like, so it might be me manufacturing, doing it, and then on the other side of it, I might actually feel it, if that makes sense. So it's like, it's not the desire to do it that's pulling me, but I just know that I'm not fulfilled in the other things that I'm doing. And I feel like that could be, you've just got to experiment with life, right? So it would be an experiment to do it, and I think, I have a strong suspicion that would feel something in the soul doing it. But yeah, good question. I don't think directly it is the soul pulling me. Because of that fear of my dad, like the voice behind, like, still there.
You have to do the athletic thing for it then not to be the main thing, and then
yeah,
you have to
exactly.
do the business thing for it not then to be the main thing.
Yeah, to realise that there's something deeper and more.
But it's not like that becomes less valuable. I don't think it's just that.
It's a reshaping or
parts of the journey,
redefining.
Yeah. So what is this soul mechanics and soul conditioning? What does that mean?
Yeah, big conversation. So for me, one of the biggest lessons with biomechanics was there are things you cannot solve in the physical, like that. Just go, like, I could do every ankle program on the planet, and it wouldn't fix my ankle, because there's something deeper within me that's causing it. That's what I mean, this was my strong belief now from like, I obviously
Do you
didn't
know it, or is it a belief?
I think it's the truth. I think it's God's truth,
Yeah.
but I'm still discovering it and experiencing it. But I obviously haven't done every ankle program on the planet, but I tried so many things.
I think you know it, and you're just gentle with your language.
Yeah,
You don't want to speak in absolute, but some
I
things
can
you
be
know.
arrogant, so yeah, I know. So I'm trying to act humble. I know it, yeah.
No.
But
It's been said. It's not. You're not the first
yeah,
to
and
say
it's
that.
It's a repressed emotions from childhood, are like manifest in physical ways. So I think we can call it the subconscious. You can call it the mind. Our mind create. You know, people say it's the mind. If you people go to a job they don't like, they're acting against they're not listening to their soul. Their soul's screaming, I don't like this job, and yet they continue to go, and then they get their hair falls out, they have cancer. It's like you're ignoring your inner voice, and yet or then the inner voice can be the opposite, where it's telling me to do racism, get approval, and that's not loving, because the motivation is for approval and not because it's a genuine feeling in me. And each way, overshoot, undershoot, creates the body to go, hang on a minute, like, we didn't sign up for this, or, you know, it manifests. So this repressed feeling within me of insecurity, of why do I want approval? Because I don't feel loved. I don't feel trusted, wherever that comes from. So rather than feel my own sadness, I'd rather chase the approval from everyone, and it will never be fulfilled. Even when I get it, it's like an addiction. The addiction will get you to baseline, and then the moment it's not there, you feel back down. So my ankle got better when I stopped trying to fix it, and I focused on other things. I started to look at my emotional state, look at my motives for why I want to run all the time, when I was running away from responsibility a lot of the time, right? Because when you can just run every day and just make enough money online, and then your diet's around that, and then you just have to check your emails or something, and it's like you not really build anything. You're not really fulfilled, but you feel like as long as you're running and your times are getting faster, like that's the danger with a lot of athletic stuff, is like as long as your numbers are improving, you feel like your life is fulfilled, and at a certain point it won't fulfill you, even if they are getting better. But for me, that's like just starting to look at my own childhood and what emotions are still there, and recognizing that it's like if you've got trash in your attic. There's a lot of talk these days with stoicism and things like that, like just let it go, like it's a mental choice to let things go. But you'll notice if you try that for enough years, as soon as you're triggered, that childhood stuff comes right back up. Like as soon as you're triggered again, it doesn't. We can think we've grown, we can meditate, 24/7 for 10 years, and put ourselves in an environment that's controlled where we're never triggered, and suddenly you're in the supermarket and someone cuts in front of you in the line, and you're like, that's emotions right there. And so starting to go, is there a way I can truly change? And for me, it's that belief that if there's stuff in the attic, it has to come through the front door. You can't just put nails on the attic. And by that, I mean the emotion has to be expressed. And so for me, recognizing I have a lot of anger at my parents, at my mum, not then projecting it at them, or I can blame them in a sense of like calling the spade a spade, but not in like victim mentality of like, my mum did this to me, that fucking bitch, No, that's her. She's gonna have to face that in time. I'm trying to be a man now. I'll take myself out. She'll trigger me, send me a message, come around my house uninvited. Take myself out of the situation. I've got a punching bag now. Get out on the punching bag, and then I feel a lot better. I feel a lot, and like actually not this. I was a pseudo spiritual, like judging my own anger or projecting the anger back. It's owning the emotion, owning the anger, getting it out where no one is going to be the target of that anger, not judging it, being a kid throwing the tantrum. Sometimes that might lead to the tears below it, whatever's, because anger is just a cover up for the true grief that we're scared as, especially as men, to show that we're really sad. Being angry is accepted in society more than that. So without going on too much a tangent, is really understanding my motivations for what I'm doing, and then really trying to recognize my emotions in every moment or in every scenario, every conversation. What is triggered? What is this here? And then when something, a negative emotion, anger, grief, whatever is triggered, trying to own that and deal with that. And that was, I mean, this is the start of a lifetime journey. I've been doing it for 4 or 5 years. There are teachings that I've discovered on YouTube that I follow that have helped me understand this. But it's the hardest thing I've ever had to do, because our childhood and all this stuff is just so buried in, like, and society doesn't want us to, like, everyone else is in agreement that we shouldn't as men we shouldn't express fear, or if we cry as men we're weak men, or it's a real, you're turning against everything in society, and inside yourself, every wall I've built up is to protect me from these feelings. And so it's like trying to bring these walls down to get to them. But that has been the most rewarding thing, and actually helped me the most physically, biomechanically, is the few incremental bits that I've been able to get through with that. Is like, so it's not just do 10 sets of calf raises or step downs. It's like, yeah, you can do that, but also recognize. There's a guy, Dr. Sarno, who has a really good a book on, especially on back pain. But his basic simple theory was that when we have a physical pain, and this with spines, they'd scan people, and some would have back pain, and they'd scan it and have a disc, like bulging disc. But they'd also scan 100 people that had no pain and have bulging discs. So it's not the bulging disc where the pain's coming from. And so what it was for them, it's the mind, psychological, whatever. We manifest pain because we don't want to feel an emotion. We manifest physical pain. So if I'm having arguments with a wife all the time and I'm always in this feeling, I'll manifest an injury because I'd rather be able to go, oh, my knee, than actually face and feel that. So it's like we are almost our own worst enemies, because we, like, a child just feels their feelings. They don't carry injuries more than one day. We don't judge them for feeling their feelings so much, like as much as we do an adult. And they're able to process, get the thing as it's added to them, they remove it. But at a certain age, it becomes less and less safe. Our parents start to stop us feeling it. Our school system, you feel, you get secondary school, if you're crying as a boy at secondary school, man, I stopped that. I cried once at secondary school, then I didn't cry again. I remember being a boy, the first time I banged my knee at home, and I didn't cry, and I felt proud of myself because I didn't cry, because that was my dad's programming to stop me crying. It's crazy. That's stored in me. If every time we don't cry, we don't release our anger, it just gets stored layers and layers, and then we age, and it speeds up our aging, and we get grey hair and stuff like that. So it's like the reversal, the best anti-aging, all of this is to remove the emotions. Now I believe they're stored in the soul. People could say mind, mental, psychological, whatever. So that has been my more recent journey. It's just to understand the emotions, because everything in life we're doing is, we want to feel good feelings, but they should be motivated by purity. And when I say that, I mean, I believe there is a ultimate truth of what is loving and what isn't. And most of us operate on a pain-pleasure spectrum, where we're running from pain and chasing pleasure, not what is loving and what is unloving. And that's a different spectrum. And so when I'm trying to do the loving thing to myself, say there's a piece of cake there, chocolate cake, and I want to lose weight. Like, I could eat the cake and that would be pleasurable, but is it loving to me? In that moment, it might not be. I might be overweight, whatever. But I might be perfectly healthy at a friend's party and there's a piece of cake there. And it's perfectly loving to eat the cake. And so in that scenario, I can eat it. So to blame the ingredients of the cake for my body, or to judge someone else for eating cake because I get affected by eating cake, because my motivation is I'm addicted and I'm lonely and I want to eat the cake, but they're just a perfectly happy kid that's just eating a piece of cake. Like, it complicates things, because then we can't just blame ingredients, and it widens the picture and the scope of, like, there's this what's playing in the physical and the ingredients and the whatever.
Yeah,
and
you've
then
been
there's this,
super
like,
deep on diet. You've changed your diet quite a bit. I've also done a ton of fasting. I was vegetarian for 9 months. Played around with vegan, low meat, keto for a period of time, carnivore. You've done a lot of these as well.
I have, yeah.
How does emotions relate to diet? How do you see that now?
Yeah, so I was vegan 7 years, did fasting, intense fasting, 35 days, came off that meat eating, keto, carnivore. Now I'm currently...
What does it say 5 days like? Did you have that much? How much fat did you lose? Like how much?
Oh, I was so gaunt, man. I lost 50 pounds, 40 pounds,
Wow.
something like that. But I felt okay until I didn't, and then I ate. Like, I think there's a distinct difference between fasting and starving.
Yeah.
And most people will just think you don't eat, you starve. But I felt like I was fine.
Yeah.
And then day 36, I felt like not good, and I ate. So it felt like my body told me. But I definitely wouldn't. I'm quite an extremist. Like, I think that shows the level of desperation in me, like, to find answers, driven by whatever childhood stuff.
Did you find any answers?
Yeah, I found out that it wasn't the diet. Like, it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't the fasting. Like, I want to solve everything with physical solutions and discipline and strictness.
Did you do any breath work during the fast?
I didn't know. No, it probably would have been more powerful.
Yeah, I did some breath work when I was really into the Wim Hof stuff when I did a 7-day fast just before Manu was born. And I was like straight into space, like it was wild. When I was further into the fast, as soon as I did the breathing stuff, it was just...
Wow. Did anything come up for you emotionally at that time, or?
A lot of stuff, yeah, when I was doing the Wim Hof stuff, like often I would have big emotional releases and visions, and it was pretty wild.
That sounds interesting. I wish I knew the emotional stuff now, because I would have approached it so differently. But I don't know that I even would have done it, because a week is like the middle path, right? Like 35 is extreme. No one needs to do that. Like,
if you're not really fat, I think really fat people.
Yeah, they can.
A different story.
Yeah, they can do that.
It's relatively.
They can go like 2-3 months, right? Like. So yeah, diet now I look at it differently, because I was blaming, like we just discussed, I was blaming ingredients, and I was very dogmatic on, like, I was reading Arnold Ehret when I started the fast, who's very much the mucusless diet guy, and most foods give us mucus, animal foods give us mucus. He's very raw foodist.
Yeah.
But then I ate fish and certain hallmarks. You know, I had salmon. I had a wet dream, and I was like, well, that seems like a hallmark of health. I don't know that it is now. I mean, I think I wanted it to seem like that, and maybe it is, but I can't say factually that it was. Something shifted, but.
Did you have a long period of abstinence before that?
I didn't masturbate the whole fast. Your mind is not in that space, you know, at all.
So you had the salmon just at the end of near the end. Or
well, I didn't break it with that. I had like 2 weeks of fruit or more, and then I was just like, wow. The fast was like the penultimate thing I thought that would heal me, because you know the thing with fasting is, when we're eating, digesting, our body's priorities are on other things, and it's not healing the joints. And when you fast, it has opportunity for, like, the to-do list goes to the joints and healing this stuff. So I thought I'd come off the fast, feel best I've ever felt. I could eat this diet, and all the problems in me for when I used to eat meat, and now, you know, and I could eat the perfect human diet, raw food, whatever. And I'd be like that, and ailments, injuries, niggles, digestive stuff all came back to me within a couple of weeks, and I was like, well, fuck it all then. Like, if I'm suffering, I may as well eat an animal, right? And that was my approach at the time. And then shortly after that, a woman approached me in Derby at the gym, actually, who was like, had seen some of my YouTube stuff. Her boyfriend watched my videos and could see that I was like desperate and seeking, and she's quite a sensitive soul, and was just like, have you thought about, like, how's your relationship with your mother and all this stuff? And I was like, like, well, now you mention it, like, there are some issues, and then helped me see this, like, emotional kind of side to things that I hadn't looked at, because I was looking at the physical, and, like I say, trying to solve everything that way, and I'd one bit of awareness of, like, how my repressed stuff could be affecting my everyday life, and I just couldn't ignore it at that point. And I'm someone who's, I've retired when I've never actually worked, to be honest. Like, when I was 18, I got into university to do a maths and physics degree. I deferred it for 1 year to pursue parkour, and it worked. And then since then, I've been my own boss. Like,
still plan on the degree, or?
Yeah, maybe with Terrence Howard. No, not really Terrence Howard, but like someone more. No, and maybe one day, maybe more like architecture or something like that would be quite cool. But I've been soul seeking from 18. Like I've been reading spiritual books, Essene Gospel of Peace and Eckhart Tolle and Toltecs and Celestine Prophecies. You know, that was 12, 15 years ago. I was reading this, so it's like you looking at Buddhism, looking at different religions, looking at meditation, and there's just triangulating truth, right, and experimenting a bit, but then trusting that inner voice of like, no, this isn't it, or go deep. That's what I did with the fast. Just go to the end of it. Go as far as fast as you can alone to the end, and then you'll get the answer, and then you go, oh, it's smoke and mirrors. Like, there's something else. This isn't it. Like, and trusting that I would know truth when I finally found it. And you have to hold on to some beliefs that aren't true for a while to know that even when your own dogma is involved now I can recognize my own dogma a bit more. Maybe I'll still be stuff I'm holding on to, but like, you know, there's discussions when you're in your 20s, you're like, vegan is the way, carnivore is the way, and then you get, you're like, maybe it's that. I'll just do this for now, but I won't. You get less attached to it. But,
I can see that with the way you're talking about the rope flow as well. That you're not telling us it's the panacea, the solution to everything. You're inviting us into rope flow and we're enjoying it together. But
yeah, that's it. I was saying earlier, like on the Dunning-Kruger, I feel like I've gone through that bit, and I'm just like in this middle bit, unsure about a lot of things. But with rope flow, it's just like, yeah, you swing a rope and you know, it's fun. Like, yeah. There's some stuff happens in the brain, maybe you can run, you can dance a bit better, but yeah, I've definitely got the soften. In the biomechanics world, man, there's so many people claim to be experts and have the answer, and I just think there's so many cowboys, but they believe it. It's not. I don't think people are like, they're not knowingly lying.
Malicious.
Yeah, it's not malicious, and there are results. But the truest saying is a broken clock's right twice a day, and maybe it's more than twice a day, but like, it's not the ultimate, and it's not guided by. It's a lot of it's motivated by wanting to be the Messiah. I've had Messiah complex and stuff, you know. It's like there's a lot of that in that space.
Looking for the person who's got all the solutions and trying to be the person who's got all the
Wanting
solutions.
to be the person, or a boy with fatherhood issues who wants a dad who will speak as though they know the answer because their dad was maybe more meek or something, and they want to find that father figure, and so then you have the codependency of the leader
So that's the place to end it, in the mystery of what's the best in athleticism.
We don't know.
What's the future in business? Where are we going on the soul journey? What's the land and the farm and family place going to look like?
Yeah, all with to be continued, I guess.
Yeah, that's the fun of it.
The final thing that's helped me the most is that, like, I'm not Christian. I believe there is a creator. I experiment with prayer sometimes. I think there's something there. Like, that's my future. It's like that relationship. I think if we can work on that, the better that is, the better everything is.
It's definitely a place of depth in the divine.
The divine, yeah.
There's some knowing there.
There's something there, yeah. I feel like it. I know your journey is like.
I've been exploring this a lot this year as well. We haven't spoken too much about it, but
Yeah. All right. Thanks, man.
Champion.
Yes, brother. Thank you, man.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you. Glad we did it.